Hello once again, everyone. Welcome to my 11th video in the Crush Cash Game series. This video is going to be 5-10, just like my last handful of videos. I hope you enjoy watching. I'm very grateful for being able to create content for my viewers. If you haven't yet, please just take a second and subscribe to my channel. It would mean a lot to me. The top right hand table, a pretty interesting hand is about to develop. The button min opens, which is very normal. The small blind 3-bets, which can be, in my opinion, is done pretty wide. A lot of players from the blinds combat the min raise with 3-bets, and the 2-seat 4-bets to almost 3x, which is interesting, and then the 3-seat calls very quickly. Ace 4-4 rainbow. Pretty dead board. Now, essentially there's 2 bets left. One, it's pretty interesting betting 135. It's less than 50% of the pot. It looks like a pretty weak bet, but it's leveraged where the 3-seat should be playing for their stacks on later streets. It's very interesting to me that the 3-seat raised, because if they had an ace, why would they raise? Do they think it looks bluffier so they get value out of a hand like kings or queens? Do they ever have a bluff there? How does kings or queens react to that check raise? We have to remember they did call 3x out of position, which in my opinion strengthens their range. I would think, I'm about to look up the hand, but I would think that the 3-seat called the 4-bet with a hand like ace-king or ace-queen and check raised the flop because it looked like the bluffiest line he could take, not expecting the 2-seat to just go crazy with kings or queens. We get 3-bet at the bottom left. Pretty obvious that we're going to be 4-betting with ace-king. It's just a matter of how do we want to size it. My Bovada does not appear to be working for me at the moment, so I'm going to have to relaunch it. So, my analysis of the hand, once again, is that the 2-seat was probably bluffing. They instantly folded. I think kings, queens, jacks, those sort of hands are going to pause. They might end up folding, but it won't be just an instant snap fold. Flipping top pair at the bottom left. Check, check. I would expect my opponent to check a lot of hands that have equity back on the flop and the turn. So that have showdown equity. So the $20 bet I expect is going to get paid off pretty lightly if he does happen to have something. We turn a pretty good hand at the bottom right. I think our only line to continue is to just assume that because we have the board so crushed, he has lots of bluffs and he's expecting that we're going to be calling with a 10 on the turn and give him an extra opportunity to bet the river. My sizing here on the river is questionable. I think I got flustered because of having two full houses at the same time while I managed to click the cascade button. But that's not a good excuse. The best play would have been to bet around 110 into 340 and hopefully induce a raise, as I think that's our most likely chance to get any action. Because like I said, it's so unlikely he has anything, and if he did have something, he would have bet the river in the first place for value. So missed opportunity there. Wow. So my analysis on the check raise was right. The person who called the 4-bet had ace king. And check raised the flop. So they were doing it for value. The other player actually had kings. So they didn't even consider the fact that their less than 50% bet may induce a raise. That's pretty shocking to me. Actually, I think that discredits that player, in my opinion. I think it's worth thinking about. I think it's a credit to the small blind for being a little creative and raising the flop. I think that's definitely the best line to take to get paid off by kings and queens, is to just go ahead and check raise. So I very much like that play. Aces at the bottom left. No action. Can't really peel with 6-4 off despite getting 5-1. Just not going to be able to show a profit doing that long term. The other option would be to attempt to squeeze, but I don't really like squeezing under the gun and under the gun +1 raisers. That's generally the time they're likely to be at the top of their range, and that's just not. I don't find it profitable attacking people when the odds are they have a strong hand. Something that I've learned throughout my career is that it's a losing endeavor I call it trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. When I know my opponents are at the top of their range, they have a strong hand, but I think I can make them fold. That has cost me a lot of money over the years, has caused me very much frustration, and at the end of the day, I just look at it like this. The times that I do have a strong hand and get paid off by just the ridiculous hands that are never good, all those hands are going to call me when I'm bluffing as well. So just wait until you have it, and these players are going to pay it. You'll get paid off. They shouldn't pay you off, but it's just incredible. And you can't have one without the other. You can't expect people to make incredible folds, to triple barrel bluffs and overbets and going crazy when you think you can fold out their whole range, and at the same token expect them to pay you off when you make a big hand. So I'm grateful that I get paid off as light as I do, and I try not to fit the square peg into the round hole. Even though I still find myself doing it after 11 years of playing this game and in-depth analysis, thousands of hours spent discussing strategy with my friends, and a sample size of who knows what, attempting to make players fold, I still find myself thinking, oh, this would be really nice, this would be really cool, like, why don't I try this? Oh, I can probably fold out most of the range if I do this. And always find myself at the find myself getting frustrated and end up berating myself and asking myself how I could be so dumb and think that was a good idea. But it's amazing. While I'm playing, I try to keep my perceived image in the back of my mind at the different tables, because like at the bottom right table, my perceived image is going to be tighter than say at the bottom left table, where I'm 3-betting 15% and playing double the hands. It's just the reason for the difference is it could be variance. You could be just getting better cards at one than the other. It could be situational. It's harder to play lots of hands when you have players behind you that are going to be 3-betting you mercilessly, or you have somebody in front of you that's playing every hand and not folding. So there are various factors that can contribute to either playing more hands or playing less hands. But it's something to always take into consideration, because the players you're playing against are probably using a HUD and probably have a perceived image of you. So if we can attack players based on our image, it's going to make money in the future. And what I mean by attacking is, at the bottom right, I should be 3-betting lighter. I should be 3-betting the bottom of my range. I should be exploiting the fact that they think I'm a super nit. At the top left, a couple of hands ago, I opened 3x from the small to the big. I don't like doing that most of the time, but the guy on my left has an extremely nitty image. So simply because of that, we're going to attack him. We ended up getting 3-bet minimum, which is a sign that he's probably a fish. I would assume he's just the type of player that isn't going to play many hands pre-flop, and when he does, he's going to play them pretty face up. Very simple player to play against. I would like to see myself 3-bet the A7 simply because of the player on my left. I believe that they're going to be their big blind is going to be getting raised more so than normal. And we haven't 3-bet yet, so we have a lot of credibility. You have to take in all these factors before deciding whether to 3-bet or not. And something that really hurts a lot of people, including myself, and I'm guilty of this. Every poker player is guilty of being on autopilot, just playing the cards that are in front of them and not paying attention to all the various factors at the table. And if you can keep all of these things in your mind and take them into consideration before making your decision, your win rate will drastically improve. At the bottom right, it appears as if the player on my left is even nittier than I am playing. We should be taking advantage of that. So we flat, looking to exploit the button. There's a couple of reasons to flat. First, our image is so nitty. 3-betting an under the gun raise looks super duper strong, and that is not what I want my hand to be perceived as. So flatting for deception purposes, hoping to induce a squeeze from either the big blind, the button, the small blind, or the big blind. Both have high 3-bet percentages. So we did get squeezed, the 1 seat did call, and now there's $265 in the pot. We have a dominating hand in this spot. We're just going to go ahead and 4-bet it and basically get it in. Because of how we've repped our hand here, I do think it's a little unfortunate when we get shoved on. I don't think by any stretch that we're dominating his range. As it turns out, both have the same hand. It appears as if the 4 seed at the bottom right is driving the action. They're playing about half their available hands, raising with 30% of them. At the top right, we were definitely going for a limp raise versus this particular opponent who has shown a tendency to be super aggressive pre-flop and is definitely capable of overextending himself and raising very light. And we would for sure be 3-betting him there. I think a silly hand like King 8 off playing for a limp raise is way more profitable than just going ahead and raising 3x, because we get called, we get messed with out of position post flop so often that it's really annoyingly hard to play. Again, at the bottom left, it appears as if we were going for a limp raise. and got foiled. Once they check back the turn, we're for sure betting the river for value. It's pretty interesting to me that they did check back the turn, because I would think it confirms it that they're not floating us. So when he checks back the turn, I would think that he has a decent amount of tens in his range, which we're going to get paid off by the tens. I don't think he has a 5, because if he did have a 5, he would just go ahead and bet the turn. It's really... maybe he decided to float the flop and see if I check twice and then bet versus 2 checks, in which case I probably don't have very much. I don't like the fact that I limped at the top left. That's an instance of me forgetting who my opponent is on the left and not raising. Getting in a mindset of, I'm going to limp raise, and I just completely forget that my opponent is not likely to raise. And if he does raise, I'm putting myself not in a good situation by limp raising with 6-7 suited. We're going to get called and be dominated out of position very often. I would much rather just open to the normal 3x. Bottom left, ace king off, facing an under the gun who raises 2.5x, who is extremely tight. We do not want to 3-bet this type of player, because for all the reasons that I said before, he's extremely tight. He's not going to give us much action if we 3-bet him with ace king, and when he does have us crushed, he's going to 4-bet us, put us in bad spots. I would much rather just call and peel a flop in position. We're pretty clearly ahead on this board. We have the nut flush blocker. We have top pair, top kicker. It makes it unlikely that he has a king. And because of our small bets, I'm hoping to get paid off by queens and jacks, possibly with a club, possibly not. Because of the fact that he's so tight, I don't expect a player like him to pay off 3 large bets. So I wanted to give it to him in its installments of 3 small bets. The threes is at the bottom right is a good example of me 3-betting when I'm playing super nitty versus just flatting and trying to flop a set. When we do flop a set, do we get much action because of our image? Probably not. So I would rather 3-bet the trays. If he calls, we can still rep the top of our range on most flops and make him fold hands that are better than ours. Peeling with the king queen out of position. You can for sure make an argument for 3-betting it. You can make an argument for calling. I don't know if you can make an argument for folding. That's a little too tight for my taste. Looks like we're trying to out of position float, which is pretty risky. If he bets, I believe we're going to try to represent a 4, pocket 8s, pocket 6s, or 5-7. The 6s, a 4, 5-7 are for sure in our range. We're not messing around with our sizing either. We're raising him a little bit more than 3x. This is our shot to win the hand. If he calls, we give up. We're taking one big shot to take the pot down. If it fails, we shut it down. Really good flop at the bottom right. I wouldn't expect to get tons of action, especially based on our image. Pretty versatile hand now at the bottom right. The question is, he called out of position. He probably has a jack, I would think. I would think that he has a jack. It's probably going to take 3 bets to get him to fold it. I'm very afraid of our nitty type image being used to exploit us if we were to bet the turn, because he can raise us pretty liberally, and he's probably going to be shipping most rivers. But I don't mind. Actually, looking back on it, I don't mind betting the turn because our hand can withstand a raise. He's repping pretty thin when he does raise, so we have a good chance of just having the best hand and winning the river unimproved. If I could go back, I would bet the turn. I think that's the better line. Haven't really realized it, but at the top right, we're also playing pretty tight. I think that's a testament to the player on our left is 3-betting 26% of the time, pre-flop raise 24%, playing 34% of hands. He's likely to be aggressive and attack us. And it's frustrating playing out of position against a player like that. That's why they're so effective. That's why that style is very profitable. Peeling with the ace-8 off at the bottom right. I hope we check raise this board a good amount. He only bet half pot. These are the types of situations where we for sure want to be check raising with bluffs a decent amount of the time. We could for sure battle the ace-4 off at the bottom left versus that particular player who seems to be very aggressive. If he has a tendency to flat 3 bets and try to outplay post-flop, ace-4 off is not a hand that I love going to battle with out of position. It's going to be extremely hard to play. We're not going to be winning the pot with 1 bet. We're going to be investing multiple bets out of position versus hands that probably have us dominated. And if they don't have us dominated, he's going to put the pressure on even when we're winning. So sometimes it's better to just avoid those conflicts altogether, give up, and fold our small blind or our big blind. Ace-9 off, should 3-bet this. We've been playing pretty nitty. This is a pretty easy 3-betting spot for us with the ace blocker and the fact that the 5 seat's probably going to be opening pretty light. Not a great flop by any stretch. See here, I bet half pot, and I have a weak hand. So, pretty standard, I think, that it's a pretty good betting pattern, because clearly I fall into the habit of doing it as well. I don't like the fact that I didn't bet the turn here. We have the nut flush blocker. We have initiative. We have the fact that we have been playing like a nit on our side. These are all reasons to bet the turn. It's just a wasted opportunity. In my view, we gave away $359 right there. And technically not $359 because we had a lot of equity to make our hand going to the river, but you know what I mean. We had an opportunity to just take the pot down and instead botched it. Ace King off on this particular board. I don't like it. It's annoying that the button is so collie. He's not folding to many c-bets. The fact that he checked behind looks like he has some sort of showdown equity and he just wants to make it to the river. The only chance we have of winning that pot with the hand that he had was to bet the turn and then bet the river. It's not the worst decision to just give up. One lesson right at the end here that I think is important to know is at the top right, the game doesn't look very good. It looks like there's three regulars playing against each other. Whoever is going to be favored in this spot will likely have a tiny win rate, and the people who are not favored have a tiny loss rate. The one thing that you do get, though, is the opportunity to be joined by fishy type players, and I think the 6th seat is an example of that. I think he's going to be a weak player, buying in for 305, posting in the cutoff, just very telltale signs that the game just got a little better. So before you give up, and when you're facing regs, always take into consideration the fact that a game can go from a crappy 3-handed game to a great 6-handed game very, very quickly. And it looks like the 3 seat was with us for a very short time. C-betting with the 9-5 off. I think this is a great spot to bet the turn because I feel like our range looks pretty bluffy. I cascaded the tables again, much to my annoyance. Trying to find the 9-5. This looks like a bluff. Like I have a lot of bluffs in my range in this spot and not a ton of value, so I expect to get called pretty light. The king is an interesting card because if we bet the river here, we're repping a king at this point, or two pair plus. So since our range looked light on the turn, and now we have a river here, I would like to make a big bet to make our range seem polarized and get called by less. I really like the 160. That's just about the perfect size. And I think the 2 seed is going to be pretty sick to his stomach seeing our hand, knowing that's in our range, because that's just not very good. Not very good for his long-term profitability in that spot. and he had pocket fives. So, all right, thank you very much. This is my 11th video. Please subscribe if you haven't. Have a great day. Until next time.